Howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Whoa.
Hello.
I just learned that I had used the wrong URLs for months. There's like the CNC app / SIG security, and that's different from this. So yeah, that was confusing.
Welcome. Hi. Glad you made it.
Thanks.
Window here. While we're giving folks a minute to file on in, let me get the notes up. Savita, I've made you co-host so that in case I get booted off for some reason, that somebody with access to the administrative and monitoring tools will still be in the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tabitha.
All right, we'll give a minute or two for people to come in. Please go ahead and put yourself on the meeting attendance if you haven't come around, and go ahead and if you want to give a quick introduction to yourself with you know, who you are, what the correct way to address you is, and you know, what you're here to share with Kubernetes SIG security. We'll call it started when my clock ticks over to 2:03, I guess. All right, we'll call it officially started then. We'll go through optional introductions if you want to, because it looks like we do have a few people here that haven't necessarily met everybody before. So I'll start with that. I'm Tabitha, call me she. I'm one of the co-chairs, and I am here to help to make a space inside Kubernetes for the cool things that y'all want to do, and to help out with those things where I can. We'll just go down the list. If anybody else wants to give a quick shout out to themselves, so that we can all know who we're dealing with.
Hey folks, I'm Nathan Smith. I use the he, him pronouns if you want to address me. And I met quite a few people in this group at KubeCon, which was my first KubeCon. And I'm really excited about getting into security because I thought some of the attitudes here were awesome, and I want to learn, and I'm interested in kind of building community.
That's wonderful. So happy to have you.
I'll go next. I'm Jeremy. I work at VMware. I use he, him pronouns. My team runs Kubernetes in a variety of compliant environments with different security constraints and policies applied. So we're just looking to be more involved and give back where we can.
My name is Pop, he, him. I work for SIG, and I'm just here to just basically just learn from all you giants here.
Eric Smalling with Sneak, formerly Heptio-ish, formerly Docker, formerly, I bounce around. So I think my second or third time on this call, but this is my first experience in a SIG, so I'm still learning as it goes too.
I'm Al. I work at something that has nothing to do with security. Actually, I'm here to see what's up and see how I can help.
Hi, my name is Jabe. I use he, him pronouns. I'm primarily here because I think I got my CISSP in like the 90s, and then I haven't done so much security work since then, and I'm curious to see how things are going and learn from you all. So
Welcome. There's a lot of cool security things to do in Kubernetes because on one hand, it's all of the same old things that you had in the 90s. On the other hand, all interpreted in different ways and recombined in different ways. So welcome.
I'm Aaron. I use he, him. I am trying to help support the third-party security audit. I helped run it last year, and I want to kick it off again. I got kind of trashed by the holidays, and I'm just picking it back up again. Looks like we'll be meeting on Wednesdays, given a doodle pool. If you want to get involved, feel free to reach out to me on Slack, and I'll be sending out a calendar invite today.
Awesome. Yeah. Ping me, Aaron, if you need any help with like getting that on the shared calendar or anything.
Thank you.
I'm Patrick, also he, him. I don't have much else to say beyond that.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Awesome. It seems like we've gotten around the room and hit a lot of new people and a few familiar faces. So do we want to go and hear what Savita has to say about Doc's subproject? How's it been going, Savita?
Hello everyone. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving or holidays. So we are going to kick off our first subgroup meeting on Thursday, December 3rd at 2 p.m. EST. We are planning to meet bi-weekly, and first focus would be to work on the CKS related material. And also I'm gonna get a little bit more into security hardening guide. So if folks are interested to contribute or if you have any thoughts, please reach out to me. I'm gonna create an issue so that we can put all of our thoughts out there and it's there. I'll link the issue later. I want to ask a couple more things regarding that. I'll circle back. And I will send out a Slack post today and maybe a tweet. I'm still thinking about it. I have one question regarding the meeting. So do we use the same meeting notes Google document, or every subproject is going to have a different meeting Google Doc meeting notes? So how does it work?
We can do whatever we like, but I think that it might be easier for everybody if the subprojects have their own Google Docs, and then maybe we can put links to all of them at the top of the main meeting notes doc, so that way we won't step on each other, but also there can be like a one-stop link that can be the only link anybody has to really know, because you could follow everything out from there. So if that works for you, then you could go ahead and create the meeting notes doc for your subproject meetings. And if you want to talk to me about like the permissions and the sharing settings and things like that on the document to make it easier for yourself in the future, there's some stuff under GitHub Kate's community somewhere in there. There's a ton of docs there. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, happy to talk to you about that offline to help you feel like you've got it set up right.
Thank you, Tabitha. So I also wanted to let all the folks know, if you join the SIG security mailing list, you will get the automatic invite for the docs too. So everyone's welcome. And please come the first meeting. We will all have fun. That's all for me.
All right, thanks a lot. I suppose we'll before we move out of this and into the discussion area, does anybody have anything else that they want to add to the list? Make sure that nobody gets their concerns missed.
I have one. It's primarily about the third party audit, but it's kind of, I don't know. We'll touch on it, and if people want to break out and talk about it, that's okay too. We actually have had money. We have money for this, and that budget expires at the end of the year, and we'll have to look for money again if we don't spend it, and I suspect it will be more difficult. A lot happened in 2020 that prevented us from like really making a ton of progress. We actually do have an RFP ready, and we could start now. But I just want to call out that is a kind of a risk to the greater Kubernetes security initiative, is that this may not happen this year, which means getting funding for it next year will be harder. But I'm happy to keep pushing along with everybody else.
That's an important thing to have noted, because, yeah, based on your experience with it last year, how concerned are you if the folks who were involved in this pushed on it? How likely do you think it would be that we could actually get something moving in time to use the budgeted money? Like, has the ship already sailed, or if we get it moving, can we make it work?
We'd have to negotiate an interesting contract whereby we get the money budgeted early and like set aside for the year. We can publish the RFP. Hell, we could publish it today if we wanted to. I think the bigger concern is acquiring bids in December. I personally have never worked for a pen testing company, but I think it's a tough time of year for them right now.
I have that impression as well.
Yeah, so I suspect that if we pushed through the end of the year to get it done by the end of the year, we wouldn't get maybe as much attention as we would want to the RFP. We might not get as many bids as we wanted. So we might get a suboptimal result. I think the next best course of action is for me to go eat my hat and go talk to the CNCF and say, I know I told you we'd have this done this year, but we won't, and see what we can do budgetarily. Okay.
Yeah, I would say, please feel free to talk to us, especially me and Ian, about what we can do to help with that, because I don't know what the budgeting rules for that look like, but I think it definitely is something that Kubernetes would benefit from having. And yeah, like everybody has seen what 2020 was like. So I would love to help you with that conversation in whatever way that I can. And I'm sure that Ian would too.
Thank you. I'll be sure to include you both.
Awesome.
And we'll have assuming my Slack message is well received, we'll have a sub-project meeting next Wednesday. So if anyone wants to jump in and contribute. I'm trying to set it on the off weeks from this meeting so that we don't overwhelm people.
Oh, okay. So then that would be like on the 9th.
Yeah, but we can work ad hoc and on Slack to set something up with the CNCF and money.
And also reach out to us about getting, like the Slack channel going. Like I said, if you need any help with getting the meeting on the calendar, permissions on the documents, any of that kind of paperwork stuff, like absolutely here to be a resource for you on that.
Thank you. That is not my strong suit.
Well, thank you. I guess we'll move on then. And I'll say first thing to bring up is paperwork. There's quite a bit of administrative work that needs to be done in terms of PRing people, PRing sub-project owners into YAML files, creating directories in different repos, adding people to owners files, creating GitHub teams. Ian and I have been working on that, and the large series of PRs is mostly complete. And at the time when we were ready to PR it, we realized we were going to set ourselves up for a bunch of merge conflicts. So we said discretion was the better part of valor and did not file the PR that would generate a heap of merge conflicts. But instead, we will be cleaning that up and expect to see that landing in a couple of days. So Patrick, the owner aliases question, yeah, we absolutely should. Precisely who can change over time, but we should have some beginnings of like owner aliases entries and things like that in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for asking about it.
Thanks for doing it.
Next thing, does anybody have any other questions about like paperwork things?
Aside from having no idea how it's supposed to work, no.
Also, is there like a master list, Tabby, in terms of
There's
like?
actually not. There's documentation, which is pretty extensive, but incomplete. And then the rest of it is things that people know from hanging around the various Kubernetes repos. So there's an extent to which I get the feeling that every new SIG has their own unique experience of getting all the paperwork in, because they are born rarely enough and Kubernetes changes often enough that I think the list of what to do is different by the time somebody else does it. But we'll just do our best with it, and when we inevitably find something that we missed, we'll fix it. Project board. I don't think that we have a project board, although I believe that we could make one, like perhaps under Kubernetes community. And that should be pretty easy to do and get permissions and things into place once we have the teams and owners files and owner aliases and things like that. So Savita, let's come back and talk about this after we get that initial PR landed to get everything in. And then if there's any changes that we need to make to like who's on what list and whatever, that should be easier because it'll just be changing, one or two things here and there.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
My initial, I wanted to ask this because the PRs are going to be all over. K website has its own thing and KK is a different thing. So I just wanted to know if there is one place where we can see everything.
Yeah, and I do not believe that there is currently one place where we can see everything, because it's relatively easy to go into the GitHub like issues search or whatever and look for the SIG security tag. But as far as I'm aware, that's a per repo thing. And so having like a project board that we can throw references onto so that there's one place to look and track things, even though it's across a bunch of repos, seems like it'll be a good step forward. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that'll be good.
Thank you.
So some interesting news. Pod security policies have been in beta for a very long time and have been deprecated for a very long time. And a lot of really smart people have been arguing about what to do about them, again, for a very long time. And at the last SIG auth meeting, somebody, I would say who, but which person it is slipped my mind, and I don't want to embarrass myself by saying the wrong person. But somebody pulled together a great document with different potential future options for what to do about pod security policy. And the meeting got into discussion about where that should go. And Ian and I were in attendance at that meeting. And we shared a lot of feelings about what the potential future for pod security policy could be, and got really good engagement with that. And so now we have an outstanding promise to the folks at SIG Auth to come to them with a cap for something cool to replace pod security policy. Obviously, this is a thing that touches a ton of different people's interest and affects a broad range of people who are using Kubernetes. It affects distributions, it affects release team, it affects SIG Auth, it affects a ton of things. And so clearly we will put our best thoughts into it, but certainly we will not produce the best possible thoughts if it is just the two of us. So I'm imagining this being a couple of step process with like starting off with writing just like a Google Doc talking about what we could see the design looking like, and then sharing that around the community for other people to add to. I'm kind of using the let's collect use cases for sidecars discussion that was happening, I believe in, I'm bad at this, I forget which SIG it was happening in, but there's a SIG that's working on trying to get a formal definition for how to do sidecars, and there was like an information gathering about what kinds of things people would want to see in it, that sort of thing. And I personally have liked that model. So the initial informal goal that we have had is to have something that some number of people have looked at to bring to the SIG Auth meeting that's happening next Wednesday on the 9th. And so if folks have been thinking about this and would like to share their feelings like before it even gets to the point of getting into the CAP process, then please come and talk to me and Dean Coldwater on Slack so that we can combine our powers and produce something that is delightful. We talked about owner aliases. Nathan, do you want to talk about what you've been thinking about having like a social get-together learning group?
Yeah, for sure. I posted in a Slack something of an idea, but I'll recap again. I think there was a lot of people through some of their introductions as saying, really interested in learning. I would put myself in that camp squarely at, in the security curious space, let's say. And I think it would be really neat to have a group that's a little even lower commitment than just showing up to the SIG, where it's a little bit more about getting things done, but maybe you're sort of like, I don't even know if I like this. And it would be neat to have a social space, maybe something that is got an activity. So, if anyone's interested, they can show up, and it can be a bit of a front door to say hello and maybe learn a little bit about security. That's certainly the spot I'm in. I don't have a hard idea of what that would look like, but I'm curious about other people's opinion, if anyone else is interested in a similar idea. And I'm also just want to put out that I'm willing to plan and lead this a little bit and host as well. But the idea basically is a place to, come say hello and also come try to break something together with people and maybe learn a little bit if you can. I think the ideal, especially for those that like me are very beginner, is maybe if there's some more experienced people that we can trick into showing up, we can learn a little bit about how would you even think about finding these vulnerabilities, or if we can kind of play a game of capture the flag together and we see someone more experienced, what is going on here, explain what is happening and how this actually works, would be so fun. So that's the pitch basically, and I'm curious if anyone else wants to help plan or just would find something like that fun or would show up basically.
I will show up. That sounds like fun.
Do you think some material like Kubernetes security, getting started, learning path, something like that would be helpful?
I can think of a few things like that that already exist. I know Kubernetes Goat is like this lovely security tutorial that's super fun. And at KubeCon also, I forget who had organized it, but there was like this capture the flag that's all in code and was a wonderful project as well. So I think I'm not especially in a great position to know some of the existing resources, but I know they do exist. And I bet someone more experienced than me can tell me what they
Maybe-
are.
I think
Maybe we-
adding a, I'm sorry, El, go ahead.
No, maybe we can start by putting together like all the cool resources that we got, and then we see what's missing and do some work to provide those.
Yeah, I think that's a good entryway for folks to come into, security, as we know right now, yes, we know and love it very much, but it's, you got to bring the fun, right? And so having those type of things like capture the flags, that would be fantastic. So bringing that social element in, I'd love to help with that, Nathan.
I think the capture the flag was somebody at my company along with Trend Micro. So I can look into who it was. Maybe
Yeah,
we
I
can
believe
get some-
there were two.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one put on by Trend Micro. I'm not sure what the venue of that one was, and then there was one at the CNCF SIG Security Cloud Native Security Day 0 event.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if that one was actually put on by Control Plane IO or if it was put on like personally by, again, I am the worst at names, but Sublimio on Twitter. Who is a great fellow. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if that was put on like personally by Andrew Martin and some people, or if that was put on by Control Plane IO. But I heard that one was really fabulous. There are a ton of existing resources like.
Jeefy's Goose game, right? I mean, that's another one.
Jeefy's Goose game, which you can just deploy into a local kind cluster and play with. There's a write-up if you want to follow it, or you can close your eyes and just try to learn by going. Brad Giesemann and Jimmy Mesta and Peter Benjamin and I at KubeCon in San Diego did a workshop which you can run yourself by going to securekubernetes.com and walk through it. I posted a workshop in the form of a CTF challenge walkthrough from a CTF challenge that I ran at Diana Initiative over the summer. And drop some links into some of these things. It sounds like there's a little bit of enough of a group here that like this could have some legs.
Let's create a doc in our repo and just call it like awesome Kubernetes security or something. And then we can list all the things. And over the next few weeks, maybe we can all go over and see what we like, and then we find like a direction for the group from there.
Working group, security social.
Yeah, I totally like that. If I can like put on my administrator hat where I worry about things because like I have a math degree and so therefore I cannot help it. The biggest thing that I would worry about with trying to do something like this would be if you want to do all original things, like getting a supply of people who have time to be able to come and do it. And so I think that starting by trying to put together a big list of all kinds of pre-existing community resources is a great way to dodge that sort of scalability problem, because then, no matter who shows up, all of us who are there can work together to help each other the best we can, whether we end up with a bunch of experts or a bunch of beginners or a whole range across. Like, I'll just talk our way through it and have fun and learn something. So I really like that. Please feel free to use the Slack channel for that. That's completely within the boundaries of what we're doing.
as someone who likes giving talks way too much, something else we can do is as we put together this stuff, and we learn it, we can set up a CNCF meetup, and like I'm an ambassador, I can just get all the stuff from CNCF itself. So we can set up a meetup, and then like every week, one or two of us shares what they learn over the past month or so. Like basically nothing new, nothing extraordinary, just like, oh yeah, I studied this for this month and it was fun. Here, check it out. That could be cool as well.
Yeah, if it really grows, then it could get to the point like other meetups where there is enough just people energy that you could reasonably have somebody with some little thing to present every time. Just like as long as there's a big enough pool for those people to be drawn from. Yeah.
Tabitha, is there any thing that, any structure for creating a subgroup that we could sort of pattern after? I haven't contributed much to any other SIGs or anything, so I'm curious if we could make a little space as a Word doc or something. I'm not sure I don't know how to pattern match against what other people have done, and that's what I'm asking about. So that we can find a forum to think about. I think it sounds like there's a bit of work in, how can we make a backlog of fun content to work in? And then there's also some constitutional questions of what do we want to make? What exactly should the format be? And I'd love to get
yeah. Do we want to
sort of into that space, and we can maybe chat together and make some meetings and stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely governance kind of tools within the Kubernetes governance model that could be used for that. Like, this could potentially be a thing that a sub-project inside SIG security could handle. It's relatively easy to spin up a sub-project. So I guess my personal direction, not speaking with my chair hat on, but just like as a person who tries to do things, I guess I would start to try and collect resources and people on an informal basis, and then see, feel really good that the thing has legs, and then go in and fill out paperwork and turn it into something more official.
Gotcha. Like structure needed kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like I would be inclined to think of it in a we can get support by adding structure kind of way. So that is only a suggestion based on my own personal thoughts, but if it's helpful, cool. And we are here, like, as chairs, we're here to help by providing access to those kind of resources. So like, if that's, if you need a place to host a Zoom so that you can have your meeting, like that is a thing that we can do. So yeah, and like we don't have to have all of the like governance tooling figured out before being able to do that. Like we can just put an ad hoc thing on the calendar and put a Zoom for it and send an email to the listserv and post a message on the Slack and be like, hey, some of us are getting together at this time, like people who have been talking to each other at Kubernetes SIG security, this is what we're gonna do. Like we can do that, like especially being this young in the lifespan of the SIG, like we have a lot of flexibility to figure out what's gonna work for us. So I like the idea that I think Elle started us off with of, should we get a doc like in one of our repos with links to, where we can start to collect links to these sorts of things. That's another thing that'll be easier once we get first draft of all this paperwork in, so that way we can approve each other's PRs into there and really use that repo like our own shared working space. So I'd say, in the, upcoming days until that gets done, feel free to just make a Google Doc, share it with each other, drop a link to it in the Slack if you want, and we can all start to type in there. And then once we have a better home for it, we just copy the material over.
Sure, I'll start that doc and share it, and just put some spaces to list out resources that you know about, and then maybe ideas for what the structure could be.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. This is going to be cool.
I'm excited for it.
Ellen says, explain it like I'm 5 for the subgroups and projects and things. Yeah, we can certainly do that. Right now, there's basically 3 like subgroups that are starting to come together. I guess an important thing to note is the entire SIG is just starting to come together. I think that this is our 3rd meeting, and of course it's been punctuated by holidays and KubeCon and all sorts of other things. So yeah, we're definitely still a baby SIG, and from a like Kubernetes governance as data structures kind of standpoint, a SIG is an object that exists to hold subprojects, and subprojects are an object that exists to hold work. And then the people make subprojects in order to hold the work that they want to do. So right now we have got Savita is subproject owner for this subproject for improving security documentation. And if you, Savita, do you want to take a minute and kind of talk a little bit about what the documentation subproject does?
Sure. So before this, a little bit of background. There was a documentation security subproject that was a part of SIG docs, and they were working on improving the topics related to security in the website. And unfortunately, due to lack of attendance and ownership, it was shut down, and then later realized SIG security was good, like when it came in existence, and this seemed to be a better place to do that. And also the website lacks certain guidelines on security, like no hardening guide, or like no production ready checklist, or stuff like that. So this project will help in if it's already there, it'll help in improving, and if it's not there, we will add more security related stuff to the website itself. So that is the goal for now.
Thank you so much. Other subprojects that have some things happening with them right now are the subproject to do the third-party security audit. Aaron, if you're still on, if you would want to do like a 30-second intro to that.
Aaron had a drop.
Okay. Well, I can try to do my best to explain that, unless there's somebody else on that would like to. So last year, a working group was doing a third-party security audit of Kubernetes like code base. So they put out a request for proposal. A few security auditing firms responded to it. A couple of firms were selected, went through source code auditing, and ultimately produced a report that now lives in GitHub under Kubernetes community SIG security. There's a directory in there with the results of that third-party security audit. And I believe that that was initially done as sort of a one-time thing. And as that was winding up, there was the realization that it would be of a good benefit to Kubernetes to do so on a regular basis. And so within like the Kubernetes governance model, a working group kind of starts up, has a task, finishes its task, and then closes. Whereas a subproject can exist to do work in perpetuity. And so if the third-party security audit is to be a thing that happens over and over, then like within the governance model, the natural place for that to live is in a subproject of a SIG that has interest in that area. And so Aaron is leading that subproject to continue repeating that process, you know, get different security auditing vendors involved and get them to look at the Kubernetes code and you know, write up the lessons that they learned from it.
A question, is there room for anyone to participate in that, or is that like something that specifically the company that gets accepted to do it's going to do, and it's like a closed doors kind of a thing?
I can't speak to this nearly as well as he could, but I will try to do my best. My understanding of that project's goals are to get a like a commercial assessment of Kubernetes by those sorts of places. Like I believe that the previous one was done as a team by Trail of Bits and Eteritas Partners, but like, you know, the Qualises of the world.
Yeah, it's that is mostly a formal process that is sort of closed. I mean, they will eventually release the report, but there's not really an opportunity to contribute to that. However, if you are interested, Kubernetes does have a vulnerability rewards program, so that you, by yourself, can always go and look for stuff, whether in the source code or whatever. We have well-defined rules, there's money to be involved, and if you find an issue, just file it at hackerone.com/Kubernetes. I
believe that's the URL, yeah.
And that's the place where the product security committee will triage it and try and reproduce it.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
And then there are a couple of sort of embryonic subprojects, which are not exactly subprojects yet, but show signs that they could become subprojects. One of them is related to tooling. There is a Slack channel, SIG security tooling. Does anybody that's actually here want to talk about any of the tooling ideas?
Yeah, I'll talk about the group for a second. In the first meeting, Ian suggested we have that group, and I jumped into it, and she said, "Hey, why don't you lead it?" And I'm like, okay. So we really haven't defined what it is exactly. My first thought was that it would be a good place to have a catalog or clearinghouse of Kubernetes related security tools. But I'm open to any other suggestions as far as taking that different directions or what. So I think I'm the de facto chair of it right now, if there is one, but happy to share those duties with anyone who knows what they're doing. Because like I said, I'm leading.
Is the idea that this would be for like user-focused tooling or more general? Because I know like Patrick, for example, is working on log sanitization.
Yeah, Patrick actually chimed in right away when we started and mentioned that he's working on some stuff around that. I'm open to either way. My thought was originally user-centric tooling, but I'm sure we could do both. Or if that's a better, we can do whatever we need to do.
And as chair, I'm here to help y'all accomplish things sort of point of view. I'll say these are all fine, and also there's nobody standing with a suit and a clipboard saying this has to be accomplished, that has to not be accomplished. And so yeah, the potential working group exists there as a way to help you have a place to do things that you want to do to make Kubernetes better. And now, you know, Nathan and others, we've been talking about whether some kind of a periodic educational get-together could end up becoming one of the formal functions of SIG security, and it might. We'll see how it goes. So that does that help, Ellen?
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay. So that is the end of what we have on the list here. Does anybody want to bring anything else up while we're still all together?
Maybe so I think one of the hopes from people on the product security committee was that SIG security would kind of provide some more legitimate governance for that role. I don't know exactly what's involved in that, but has anyone been thinking about that?
Tim and I have been talking about that on Slack, and my understanding is that it'll be taken up at PSC meetings as time allows, and eventually we will all reach a mutually agreeable decision about what will move over into the public space of being dealt with within the SIG and what will stay in the private space of the PSC, and that hasn't been decided yet, but that there's no need to rush about it. So okay. Tim, if there's anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. I agree with everything you said. I guess the one thing I would add is we don't need to wait for some formal decision on this. If people are excited to get more involved with some of the stuff that the PSC works on, we have a bunch of issues filed in our security repo. You can drop a link to that in the chat in a minute. Or in the agenda doc maybe. And so if that's something you're interested in, feel free to take a look at those, and maybe eventually we'll break out into some sub-project working groups and can talk about those in more detail.
All right. Well then, lacking anything else, I would say thank you all so much for coming and sharing your excitement for things that you want to do. Thank you for your patience with some of the logistical parts, and we'll see each other on Slack, and we'll get back together in a couple of weeks to report where we are and what we can all do to help each other. So thank you all so much for coming. Have a good one.
Have a good.
Thank you.